Hello everyone, welcome back to FantasyFootballFix.com. My name's FPL Phillips and welcome to your Game Week 8 episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm. If you're new around here, first of all, make sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel for more content to come and so you can follow along with the series in future. But this is the series where we take a look at the computer-generated team as predicted by the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm to score the most points ahead of Game Week 8 in this instance. I then put together my own human-made free hit team and we battle them off against each other to see who can score the most points, the machine or the man in each game week of the season, and find out at the end of the year in total who is better at FPL. In terms of game week 7, there's not much to recap there, with both teams obviously scoring 0 points, so we don't need to talk about that. We can just move straight into game week 8 and have a look at how the algorithm team is shaping up ahead of the deadline. And it wouldn't surprise you, I imagine, to know that in goal for the algorithm this week, it is going to be Nick Pope, the Newcastle man, who seems to be the only goalkeeper that's really being talked about in FPL at the moment, especially when he faces Bournemouth at home next, one of the best fixtures you can have in the Premier League this season. Nick Pope's not only a good potential for clean sheets when he's facing sides as weak as Bournemouth going forward, but he's also great for save points and bonus points as well, which makes Nick Pope the standout goalkeeper option. Everyone's talking about him at the moment. There's not really any need for me to sell him to you any more than that. He is just the best keeper option to go for if you can afford him, especially for this week. In defence, though, we've got a back three for the first time that I can remember this season so far, and we're doubling up with Nick Pope, adding to him with his teammate Kieran Trippier, who is another player who seems to be in every single wildcard and free hit team he can see at the moment, and again for good reason. He's on those set pieces with corners and free kicks, and he's just a great attacking threat and the best of the Newcastle backline that you can go for if you can afford him up at 5.3 million. I believe he's priced at now. But we've not only got a double up of Newcastle defence, we've also got a double up of Manchester City defence for their away trip to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And Wolves have actually scored 3 goals so far this season, and that's as many as they've kept clean sheets. So it's not very many at all across the first 7 game weeks. Well, I suppose it's 6 really, so we'll let them off one of those weeks as their game was postponed. But still a very, very poor statistic from them going forward, which leaves you to believe that Man City have a pretty good chance of keeping a clean sheet against Wolves. So yeah, Cancelo is definitely the more minute safe one to go for, whereas John Stones playing in midweek, carrying a bit of a niggle as well potentially, meaning that he might be more in line for Pep Roulette, but that's kind of what you have to play when you go with double Man City defence. There's very rarely more than one defender who's nailed on for a specific game. So John Stones is the one the algorithm is going with. It'll be interesting to see if he starts. Of course, scored an absolute screamer in the Champions League. Maybe he can replicate that 2 games in a row, but I wouldn't be putting my house on it, to say the least. Then in midfield, then, we're looking at a midfield for this week, including Almiron, who's one on the left, and you can see that's a very interesting selection. 2% own makes him a major differential in FPL at the moment, but the algorithm's backing him to do well on a free hit team. He's actually had some pretty good touches in the box numbers, and he also looks very good going down that right-hand flank where Bournemouth concede an overwhelming majority of their chances. So almost targeting a specific area of the pitch, which is the kind of minute details you should be looking at when you're going on a free hit team. So definitely, I don't know whether the algorithm's taking that into account, but definitely looks like a very interesting selection and saves you some money to go with some big hitters elsewhere in your side. Martinelli's then in this team as well, one across to the right you can see, who a lot of people at the moment are debating selling or not, due to the fact Arsenal's fixtures are turning a little bit for the worse, and this Brentford game doesn't look the absolute best on paper. A lot of people also have money held up in Martinelli, which is putting them off selling, but the algorithm suggesting this week at least that you should definitely not be leaving Martinelli out of your side or taking him out of your side especially. Brentford away doesn't look like too bad a fixture for the algorithm apparently, or maybe Martinelli's form is just the overwhelming factor. He does look too good to remove from your team at the moment, and to be honest, I would definitely be keeping him in your side, or definitely have him on a free hit team as well. It looks interesting to go with Martinelli on a free hit, but maybe if you are playing the chip this week, you might want to go 1 week without Martinelli and be able to get him back in the future, then that's okay. We've then finally got 2 Spurs midfielders, with Kulusevski, who was rested in midweek and should look in line for a start for that Spurs game against Leicester at home in game week 8, and then Hyun Heung-min Son, who's like the premium midfielder of this side. Still hasn't shown much in terms of form and actual output so far this season, but has shown glimpses of signs of improvement. Perhaps the Leicester fixture at home is the game where Spurs can really kick on and get into a decent run of form under Conte for the first time really this season. And then up front, it's no surprise to see that there's a Spurs tripler with Harry Kane taking the armband actually on the right hand side of the attack. And these are the three options that we addressed in yesterday's quick guide video, which is linked up there, for the captaincy. So if you want to go and check that out and you're between these three for the captain options, then make sure to go see that video at the end of this one. But Harry Kane taking the armband is certainly interesting. If you want to decide who I think you should captain, then again, go check out the quick guide video, or you'll be able to see in just a second when you see my team that I'm going with this week. We've then got Erling Haaland next to Harry Kane, who just has to be at your side at the moment, really. No justification needed there for Erling Haaland. You can just watch him and know that. And then Mitrovic, Nottingham Forest, a very nice fixture. The worst defence in the league statistically so far this year, and one of the best forwards and in form of his life at the moment in the Premier League, so definitely have to own him this week as well. On the bench this week, we've got Emerson and Nico Williams, who can come in if the algorithm team does have a player who misses out entirely, and not bad options at all for those fixtures against Everton and Fulham respectively, which gives the algorithm team a total of 61 predicted points ahead of game week 8. So obviously my prediction will be lower than that, as this is the highest predicted points team for this game week if you want to go with that. Let me know which players you change. Comment down below before we reveal to you my team. Who would you not have in this side for sure? Well, we're going to see right now who I would change if it were me. And I've actually gone with a bit of a ballsy move, and I've removed Harry Kane from this team. I've gone with Alexander Isak instead of Newcastle, which is interesting to say the least, or maybe it's stupid. Let me know down below whether you think myself or the algorithm's going to score more points, as every week we like to do, down below in the comments. But in defence, we've made one change. We'll get onto the forwards in a second. I've gone with Perisic in my team, and I was so close, flip-flopping to the last minute, basically, about whether I should put Sessegnon or Perisic in here. But the 4 days rest between Spurs' midweek game and the end of the week, plus the international break that we've got coming up as well, should leave Perisic plenty of time for rest around that fixture against Leicester. So I'm hoping that he should start. But to be honest, watching Sessegnon, I think he deserves a start. It's just whether Conte's willing to give him it or not. But I've gone with Perisic just for, I think, what is higher upside when he is on the field. But Sessegnon does look very good. Whoever starts in that left wing back role for Spurs is going to have a field day against Leicester. I've got a good feeling about that for whoever does get the nod. In midfield, then, we've had a few changes as well. I have gone without Martinelli in my team. I've got with Andreas Paqueta and then De Bruyne. Since the algorithm went with Almiron, thought I needed a little bit of a punt in my team, so I've gone with Paqueta for that away game against Everton for the Hammers. I've then doubled up with Mitrovic and added Andreas into my side. He's on corners, obviously, so if Fulham get anything from a set piece and Mitrovic heads it in from an Andreas set piece, then I would absolutely love that indeed. That would be much appreciated, boys, if you could pull that out of the bat this weekend. And then Kevin De Bruyne, who's my premium option I've gone with. I've added him to Heung-min Son, so I've taken out Kulusevski. I've actually gone with two premiums in midfield, which the downgrade of Kane to Alexander Isak has allowed me to do. So I've gone with Heung-min Son, and then I've gone with Kevin De Bruyne. And I think Wolves, I know they've looked like a relatively strong defence, as we touched on, keeping quite a few clean sheets so far this season. But overall, I think Man City look like too good an attack for them, and they're going to put at least one or two behind Wolverhampton Wanderers into Jose Sarr's net. So yeah, that's my team this week. It's predicted nearly 10 points less on 51 predicted points this week. I've got some decent bench options there as well if any of my players do miss out entirely, which we haven't really seen at all so far this season due to the 5 sub rule and many other factors playing into it. But Leon Bailey, Emerson and Nico Williams are down there, so I've got options in case they are needed. But let me know, as mentioned, down below, who do you think is going to score more this week, myself or the algorithm? Who is going to score more FPL points and who is going to come out on top in the series over the course of the season? It's going to be very interesting to see. One thing with regards to Harry Kane is that I did want him in my side, don't get me wrong. Alexander Isak, I know some people might think is a bit of a rotation risk with Callum Wilson returning from injury, but I've heard from the Newcastle fans that mention Callum Wilson can play out on the right, St. Maximan's back as well. I think that Alexander Isak is going to be one of the more nailed players in that Newcastle attack, and he's going to have plenty of game time this season. I think Bournemouth at home is another chance for that, given that he's well rested now. Of course, he was carrying a little bit of a niggle before in the past game weeks, but now Alexander Isak is back, raring to go, and people have forgotten, I think, in the short time we've had a break from FPL, how good he looked in his first few games for Newcastle. Same with Erling Haaland, and people not putting the captain's armband on him. He's looked fantastic. But of course, the time away could be time for players who weren't in form to start hitting form and be training and getting things right that they weren't getting right before. So you never know. Of course, things could go back to a different way. Things could go back to the same way they were happening before. That's what's so unpredictable about the Premier League and what's so unpredictable about FPL in general. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, everyone. That's going to wrap up Eddie versus the algorithm for Game Week 8. Of course, subscribe down below if you are new around here and leave a thumbs up on the video if you did enjoy. I've also left a link to the quick guide video if you want to check out the captaincy. That'll be linked up in that corner of the video. Without any more chatting about, I'll see you very soon for my next video, and good luck for Game Week 8.